Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last, but certainly not the least, segment of the World Water Week 2025. My name is Artie Davis, and it has been my pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies this week. Before we continue, I would like to hand over to Helena Tibell, Executive Director at CIVI, and Suzanne Halling-Duffy to provide your reflections of the week. Helena.
Thank you, Artie. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, thank you. As we close World Water Week 2025, my deepest gratitude goes to all of you. These 5 days have shown both the urgency of our times and the strength of collective action. We began with a clear truth that climate crisis is a water crisis. This week, this truth has come alive in sessions, hallway conversations, and new partnerships. What makes this gathering unique is its diversity, with ministers and mayors, Indigenous leaders, youth, scientists, businesses, and civil society. That breadth of voices gives us the power to carry the message of water beyond Stockholm.
This year, we welcomed over 13,000 participants from 188 countries and territories. These numbers are impressive, but what matters most is the connections made this week. We've seen interesting partnerships emerge, bold ideas tested, new strategies take shape, and we've celebrated all kinds of leadership and creativity, such as the Stockholm Water Prize laureate and the inspiring finalist of the Stockholm Junior Water Prize. On behalf of CIVI, I'd like to thank our committed partners, creative conveners, and very insightful participants, as well as our amazing team of volunteer assistants. Your dedication makes all this possible.
Looking ahead, the road does not end here. COP30 and the 2026 UN Water Conference will be defining milestones. If there is one lesson from this week, it is that inclusion and equity must guide us forward. And before I hand back, let me thank the CIVI staff. Your creativity, your commitment, and your hard work has made this week possible. Let's give them a round of applause. And let me also thank the CIVI board. It is a privilege to work alongside you. Together, let us carry the spirit of World Water Week forward with courage, with urgency, and with hope. And with that, I hand back to you, Artie.
Helena, Suzanne, thank you so much. But before we continue, join me with looking at some pictures and some moments from the week. And join me in thanking Elias Limberry for capturing these moments of energy, community, and partnership. I welcome on stage next Mark Fletcher, Global Business Water Leader at Arup, to reflect on this week, Mark, and tell us what happened and why it matters.
Thank you very much. So I may be representing the 30 plus 30s, but I think it's more important to hear from our future leaders, our young water professionals. So Kazaya from the Philippines. Whoopsie-daisy. And you've had a good trip. And Aurora from Peru. So, would you like a seat? Thank you. And how are you feeling?
Really inspired, and I look forward to bringing back all the learnings I've learned from here back to the Philippines and in India.
And you, Aurora?
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to take all this knowledge to Peru.
So we're going from Stockholm to Peru to the Philippines. Yeah. Truly global. Fantastic. So maybe we take you first, Kazaya. What was your favourite event at this year's World Water Week?
That's a really tough question. I have a lot, but to be honest, one event that really stuck with me was the event this morning about youth driving accountability in the lead up to the 2026 UN Water Conference.
There's a real buzz around that session, I think. It's got a lot of people fired up, yeah.
Yes.
So, and it's a slightly different tack. What was your most memorable moment?
My most memorable moment of this conference is actually meeting the Secretary General's water envoy, which is Retno Masudi, who really affirmed her support towards young people, ensuring that they will be included in the decision-making in the lead-up to the conference next year in the UAE.
Fantastic, and I think that's reinforcing this strong connection that comes from Stockholm to all our global policy making, so that's fantastic. What would be a key takeaway for you?
Do you mind if I share one statistic?
No.
So half of the world's population is below 30, and 60% of the Commonwealth population are young people. We always talk about youth engagement, but we don't really talk about how to involve young people, which is youth integration. And I think for me, I learned so much about how we can integrate young people within the system.
Wonderful. And maybe what might be a message for you, for everybody here as a result? What do you think they should take away?
I only have one, which is pretty clear. Water challenges are multi-generational, and therefore solutions must be intergenerational.
Very wise. Fantastic response.
Thank you.
So I'm now going to fly all the way across the Pacific from the Philippines to Peru, which happens to be a particular favourite place of mine. So, Aurora, what was your favourite event?
Actually, for me, it's the same. Yes, the same session. Youth driving accountability to the global processes. Yeah. Today we discuss the Water Euro strategy that talk about the priority areas of that youth wants to get involved more. So about capacity building, career development, and also meaningful impact of the youth engagement.
Fantastic. Oh, it sounds like a fantastic session. And I know a lot of people have come away from that really excited. And what was your most memorable moment?
I would like to say the Stockholm Junior Water Prize. You know, when I saw all these youth finalists holding their flags and showing this innovation, so they represent the innovation of the youth. So they innovate with their knowledge. So yeah.
So let's just have a round of applause for that celebration for Germany, for Turkey, and for Britain. Brilliant. And what would maybe be a key takeaway?
Yeah, I think we will have to work in strong partnerships. Yeah. And we have to create bridges between governments, communities, and civil society and private sector to, to create better projects, sustainable projects, science, the design, the implementation, and also in the operation and maintenance phases.
I've heard quite a lot of that resonating through a lot of the sessions. It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And what's your message?
Yeah, my message is to, advance in the in the inclusion in general, in the youth, indigenous, women inclusion. We have to advance. We need finance. We need capacity building. It's not just to words or papers. We have to take action.
And that's quite a good segue, so thank you very much for that. Let's have a round of applause for our fantastic. Thank you, ladies. And that's a segue, and I think it's a very important one in terms of us thinking about water for climate action. As I press my magic button. Oh, it's there. There we go. All right, sorry. I was looking at the one on the side. There you go. So let's just remind ourselves of the devastating impacts of more extreme extremes and frequent extremes since we last met last year. We can think about Texas, about the need for warnings, maybe for greater flood risk awareness. Maybe it gets us all to think that this is very real and it's here and it's devastating for communities. And we can think about Spain. We could think about, did we get our system of systems thinking right? Our transport system, our water system, our planning system. How could that all come together with this sort of debris slide through the middle of Valencia? But what damage do these cause? So the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Agency, NOAA, they've researched major events causing over $1 billion damage each from 1980 to 2025 under droughts, 31 droughts, floods, 44 flooding events, and severe storms, over 203 storms. What it does, it provides sort of spatial distribution by state. And I found this to be very insightful from less than an hour's web search. The cumulative picture for where extreme events may be more likely is quite insightful just from researching what's already happened. The cumulative damage is $2.9 trillion. I'll just say that again, just in case you thought I got the words wrong. $2.9 trillion, and I'm only talking about USA because I had that information. So let's strengthen our resolve. Let's work together to ensure global common purpose. Thank you, SUI, and thank you for Stockholm World Water Week for providing this focus. We all need it. Let's work together and let's work on action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for showing us water's place in climate action, but also how the impacts of these questions cross generations. Now, as is tradition, we move from reflecting back to looking ahead. And we call on stage to do that Jon Lane, the chair of the Scientific Program Committee of the World Water Week, to look ahead with us. Jon.
As King Canute famously demonstrated 1,000 years ago, when he ordered the tide not to rise, the laws of physics defer to no man, however arrogant or self-important he may be. if you wrap yourself in a blanket, you'll get warmer. And if you want to cool down, it's no use telling the blanket that it doesn't exist. You have to remove the blanket. And I'm very proud that we at SIWI have recognized that climate change is the most important issue that humanity has ever faced. And that we dedicated this World Water Week not just to water and climate, but to water for climate action. My sense from the week, and this echoes what we've heard in the last few minutes, is that the water quality is that the water community is acting energetically on resilience and adaptation. There are huge numbers of bright people engaged on that work. As to water for mitigation, which directly addresses the causes of global heating rather than the symptoms, after a slow start, we are now identifying and sharing solid scientific evidence and achievements. And as water people, there's a lot we can do, because some 6 to 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions are water related. If water were a country, it would be the 4th biggest global emitter. And remember that time is short. At the current rate of emissions, the carbon budget of the planet remaining to meet the internationally agreed 1.5 degree target will be used up in the next 2 years. Let me now present next year's theme. In a time of complexity and change, World Water Week 2026 will seek a more just and equitable, water-secure future for all people under the title of Water for People and Progress. We use the phrase water for people to describe those human development aspects, the health, social, economic, and resilience aspects of water resources management and drinking water and sanitation services. Those services enable individuals to thrive and to contribute to stronger, more stable communities, particularly benefiting the most disadvantaged people. While we've learned a lot about serving those most in need, we know that significant injustice and inequity still persist, and billions still lack access to those services. We add the word progress to convey a sense of action and to remind us that managing water for people depends on caring for the environment and the biodiversity of the planet and on responding to geopolitical factors. And while our media are full of urgent issues of war and conflict, the subjects which we addressed at World Water Week last year, the most important long-term factor is climate change. Water professionals must advance sustainable, just, and equitable human development while also addressing the complex impacts of a global climate which is changing even faster than we expected and threatening ecosystems as well as human peace, prosperity, and well-being. So please carry with you, when you come back next year, those lessons that you have learned about water for climate action this year. Here are some of the main study areas for World Water Week 2026. We'll discuss progress on water for people in the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and we'll also be looking ahead to the successors to the SDGs. Equity will be a big issue, and our ED has already highlighted that earlier in this session. We'll build on the work done on equity at the UN 2023 conference, and we'll be contributing towards the work on this topic at the UN 2026 conference. As the subject of the 2026 World Water Day and World Water Development Report, water and gender will be prominent. and in addressing the unequal treatment of women and girls across the governance and provision of water services, we aim to go beyond inclusion to transformation. Our discussions will give special attention to Indigenous people and their knowledge. They have invaluable knowledge about water management, and they are also highly exposed to the effects of societal inequalities and climate change. Conflicts and climate change are increasing the number of displaced people, refugees, and migrants around the world. World Water Week 2026 will address the urgent question of how to ensure that those individuals and the host communities who support them will have fair and sustained access to safe water and sanitation, and thereby to social and economic development. We will also discuss allocating water equitably at the local and the household level, so that people can use it for their major priorities, for example, for food, for nutrition, for health. And climate change will exacerbate the difficulty of doing that. We want to study whether the work for human development actually achieves outcomes that are indeed equitable. And so that will include identifying and developing metrics and indicators related to gender, Indigenous knowledge, and indeed other aspects. To overcome the systemic inequalities which we've struggled against for so many years, we'll discuss how they're caused, why they have persisted for so long, and how we might overcome them in the future. And as the flows of development aid change and, of course, decrease, the poorest and most disadvantaged people tend to have the least access to finance. So at the same time, those people are even more vulnerable to climate change. And to serve them, we will discuss positive actions to secure new financial resources and to direct the financial flows equitably. Throughout the week, the discussions will address both mitigating climate change and adapting to it, ensuring water, peace and security in a polarizing world and in a changing climate, and also managing water for human development within planetary boundaries. So, that introduces next year's theme and mentions some of its main aspects. Last year, I concluded by quoting the Kohima epitaph, which sums up the sacrifices made by 2 generations in 2 successive world wars. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. Having reflected on that, I'd like to end this year with a short poem that I have written entitled Climate Change, which is directly relevant to next year's theme of water for people and progress. And what will be our epitaph? That when they ask, we say, with shame and sorrow, for our today, we stole your tomorrow? No, we reject that epitaph. We make our choice, not to deny, but act. We'll do our best to earn our children's thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you. I now invite 2 good friends of World Water Week, and indeed of mine, Kate Harawa of Water for People and Stefan Uhlenbrook of the World Meteorological Organization, to join me on the stage. Welcome.
Thank you, John.
Kate, you're the Director of Influence and Scale at a well-respected international NGO, whose name is very similar, actually, to the theme next year. With your experience in serving people who are sidelined or neglected, which is really the first aspect of our theme for next year, how do you feel about the theme, and what recent advances should we celebrate and spread?
Thanks so much, John, for inviting me to join you. And also, let me start by commending Siwi for choosing a theme for 2025 that is so close to our heart and to the core of our existence, not just as Water for People, but I mean us as people that are in water or in WASH. The theme has come at the right time, and I think for the 5 days that I've been here, learning from the presentations that has been here, I've learned a lot in terms of the advances that have happened in the sector. I think we're doing good, and I think I've heard in the rooms that WASH system strengthening is important, is key. So as we are working to make sure that people have access to safe water, we shouldn't just look at the current to say, okay, they have water, but how is it sustained? And that's cause for system strengthening. And I've heard this clearly, and I think we've started doing it, and that must continue and must be spread. I think the other thing that I've heard and listened is about the recognition, which John, you've also referred to, of climate change, that it must be embedded in WASH activities. And that when it comes, it doesn't just affect water or the water that people drink, but it affects a lot of other things. And as a result, there is need for partnerships, there is need for collective action. And that's a lot of people came back in the sessions with case studies on how they are working collectively with others. And that must be continued and progressed. However, I've also heard in terms of some of the climate impact, how it's impacting people. And I think the slides that were shown here by the previous team also showed that. But I personally have also experienced that back home in Malawi, that indeed climate change is here and it affects us, and it affects us badly. But one key thing is that it doesn't affect everyone in the same way. It affects people differently depending on their resiliences. So we should take into consideration that, and that as WASH practitioners, we should continue doing. So in short, in terms of the things that we need to advance, I think those are the key things, but recognizing that also water is a human right. And I've heard that in the rooms, and I'm glad the topic is going towards that, that it's water is, it's not, we're not doing anyone a favor when we support them with water. We are actually doing justice. So we need to do justice. We need to intentionally plan to make sure that when we say people, we mean all people, regardless of where they are, who they are, what is their citizenship, and how do they look. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kate, and particular thanks for reminding us of that important point of thanks. That important point of water and sanitation as a human right. Stefan, you're the Director for Hydrology, Water and the Cryosphere at the WMO, and indeed you're a former member of the Scientific Programme Committee here at World Water Week. With your expertise in linking water to climate, which is a big part of the second aspect of next year's theme, how does climate change make water for human development more difficult? And also, how could water for human development help to mitigate climate change?
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. You know, colleagues, do you remember the figures that Mark just showed 10 minutes ago? It was from the United States, severe weather events, major flooding, and droughts. And it was for the last, 45 years or so, and color-coded. That is a hard message. But the even worse message is that there's a trend in many of these states. That means over time, these events became more severe and more intense and more difficult to deal with. So obviously, climate change is has an impact on water management. We see that in a change of the extreme events. We see that in an erosion of water availability in many parts of the world, not only about climate change, also because of pollution and overuse and the many other things we humans do, but it is a serious issue. So climate change makes water often the victim. But let me also reflect on the other side of the coin, the mitigation. You asked that in your question. And when we want to mitigate climate change, we have to either make sure that more carbon stays in the ground. I don't see this happening at the moment if you look at the global geopolitical developments. On the other hand, we have maybe opportunities we have to transition to a more green energy system. Currently, our energy system uses some 370 cubic kilometers of water every year. And that might be as much as 900 cubic kilometers per year every year. So 2.5 times that much if we go to more biofuel, if we go to more battery-driven cars, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a major challenge. That water is sometimes just not available. Other ways are capturing carbon, and also there's better water and less water-intense options for carbon sequestration. One of the best things is actually wetland restoration. You know, that is, from a biodiversity point of view, very good, but also from a carbon and water point of view, very good. And there's more water-intense. For instance, it depends on how we reforest, which and where, which species, etc. So there's the whole breadth of it, and we need to understand that better to really support human development. But water management, if we do it right, can be a really dramatic, good lever to also mitigate climate change.
Thank you very much. And I'm glad you touched on what I believe to be the largest single element that water managers can influence, which is this issue of both restoring and maintaining wetlands. Vast tonnages of methane, plus or minus,
yes.
Are in those. So no, thank you very much. Kate, back to you if I may. Could you share with us, please, your hopes and concerns about the future progress of human development in a time of complexity and change?
Thanks, John. For me, let me start with the concern first. I think we all know that the funding landscape is really changing, and negatively. And when we talk about water for people and progress, when we talk about water being a human right, when we talk about reaching everyone, it means there is need for making deliberate intentions to reach everyone, and that may be costly. And my fear is people would say, okay, it's so costly, we don't have resources. So that's my greatest concern. But there is hope, because in this conference and the language I've heard, it's about partnerships and working collectively, or collective action. So I believe the water we talk about, the wash we talk about, it's not just the water we drink. It's the same water that people use for food security. It's the same water that people use for other things, gardening, transportation, and many other things. So it's time now that we just need to work innovatively. So the hope is there may be resources in other sectors other than the wash sector. So that's an opportunity where we really need to look into it, bring in those other sectors that are non-wash actors, because they may have resources, and collectively we can work together to make sure that as we tackle issues of water insecurity or water for drinking, we are also tackling maybe water for irrigation and all that. So in that way, we will be able to achieve our goals.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks very much, Kate. So hopes overcome concerns. Sure. That's the message I'm hearing from you. No, thanks. Terrific. Stefan, please. What are the critical gaps that we should address in research and policy and practice?
Thank you, and I have half an hour to answer, I guess. There's so many critical gaps. difficult to start. I think we need to understand the system behavior better. You know, when we talk a lot about regreening the world, which we have to do, and I think we had a very interesting session today on the moisture recycling, global, the economics for water session and all that. But we need to understand the systems better to really, to make sure that if we regreen it, that we also rehydrate the world, you know, in a sustainable, good way and for everyone. I think, therefore, we need better data. We need really better process understanding. And scientists always ask for more data. And nowadays, I'm often asked to speak on AI and so, but it's down to good data. You know, AI predictions are only as good as we can provide our artificial intelligent models with the right data that actually inform well. So there's many things, but better data to be able to warn society earlier on developments. These early warning systems is a critical one. When it comes to policy, I think it was part of your second half of the question, to keep it very short. If you look at the national determined contribution, 2.0, roughly, 30% or so mentioned hydropower, 22% mentioned wastewater. Now the third generation will be submitted, or most of them have to be submitted or submitted now. And so we have to see how much water is actually mainstream there, how much the commitments of the country really account for water availability in space and time, and how can we make these climate action effective.
Mm. Well, thanks very much, and thank you both, Kate and Stefan.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Stefan. Thank you all in this room and online for listening, and please join us at World Water Week next year to take action together in the service of water for people and progress. Thank you very much.
Water for people and progress. Equity, justice, inclusivity. The World Water Week does not stand in a vacuum. It is one step on a journey forward towards change, a journey we must all walk together. To help us reflect on where we've been and where we need to go, I invite on stage Bree Fisher, Senior Civil Engineer, Becca Hunter H2O, Sarah Deer, Women in Water and Sanitation Network, representing Stronger Together Coalition, and Elise Blondell, Young Scientific Program Committee member for the World Water Week. Bree, I'd like to start with you on your reflections on being here as an Indigenous woman.
Thank you. So my title does come with Senior Civil Engineer, and I did work hard to get that, but before that, I am first and foremost a proud Barramadigal woman of the Darug Nation. And as an Indigenous woman, I would like us to all take a moment to pause and pay our deepest respects and gratitude and thanks to the Sami people, the traditional custodians of these lands. Thank you deeply for welcoming us to your home and holding us here as family. I stand here very proudly with my brother and sister, Kai and Lawrence, for joining me and sharing with you what has been one of the highlights for me this World Water Week. This piece of art was created in by far the coolest session that was held this week. If you have not seen the videos of us dancing together, you have missed something, catch up. We got to stand together, speak with each other, listen, build relationships, boogie down together, and embrace each other. And we did it in a way that truly reflects the way we operate as Indigenous people. We listened, we learnt, we worked, but we also built relationships and we nurtured each other's souls. And it's this notion of building relationships and being together in kinship, which is a core part of working with Indigenous people for Indigenous communities. Too often, and as a design engineer myself, get caught up in times where we're working to business as usual, trying to crack the deadline, trying to get something delivered on time, within budget, within scope, and we get so caught up in that we forget to pause and listen to our Indigenous people. We forget to pause and take time to care for country. And when I say country, I say that as an Australian term. To me, it is not just the land on which I call Australia. It is part of me. It is our waterways. It is the skies. It is the spirit. It is the rocks. It is the trees. It is you. It is me. It is all of us. So to care for country in the way that we do business as Indigenous people, you need to not only be elevating us onto beautiful platforms like this, for which I am deeply grateful. Thank you to everyone who's made this possible. But you need to deeply listen to us and take that forward into action. Hear us and include us in early stages of planning. We've taken care of the land, of Mother Earth, and she has taken care of us in relationship and in a reciprocal relationship for thousands and thousands of years. And we have knowledge to share with you, and you have knowledge that we could learn from too. We need that two-way seeing, that being together to move forward to build that sustainable future that we're all working towards. Thank you. Dirigura.
Brie, thank you so much. Sarah, you heard what Brie was saying. Listen and act. I'd like to ask you to give us your reflections as a woman in the World Water Week this year.
Thank you. Thank you, Brie. Dear Excellency, colleagues, friends, fellow changemakers, it's an honor to be here at this closing moment with all of you. My name is Sarah Dia, and I speak on behalf of the Stronger Together Coalition of Women's Water Networks. Water sustains life, it connects us all, but water also mirrors inequalities. When water is scarce, when sanitation fails, when floods destroy, women and girls feel the impact first and strongest. And yet, women are not only bearing the burden, we are leading solutions. We are scientists, we are engineers, we are negotiators, we are decision makers. We are shaping the future of water. But here's the reality. 80% of jobs in water and wash are still held by men. Women face barriers at every career step. But, and with every woman lost from the sector, we are losing innovation, we are losing leadership and progress. And this is not only young or early career professionals. Women drop out of our sector at every career milestone. WHO and the UN Water estimate that up to 60% of countries lack sufficient water and wash experts. We cannot reach SDG 6. We cannot secure water for all, not without women. So how do we change this? First, we must recognize inclusion is not a checkbox, it's a commitment. And commitments require investment. The gold standard here at the World Water Week has already transformed careers. Imagine if we scaled that ambition across countries, across regions, across generations. The Stronger Together Coalition brings together 8 networks, reaching more than 15,000 women worldwide. And together, our message is clear. Only with a diverse workforce can we achieve a water-secure future. So today we ask you to join us in 4 commitments. From barrier to bridges, invest in women's participation, remove obstacles, open doors. From attendance to co-leadership, enable women to co-create solutions, not just observe. From tokenism to transformation, representation matters, but influence matters more. Track and resource inclusion. And the very last point, from exclusion to leaving no one behind, open stages for women from every region and every profession. Because inclusion is not charity, it is strategy. It is how we unlock the solutions we need for water, for climate, for our shared future. So, as we head into the next water conference, let us not just invite women, let us ensure that they are shaping the agendas equally from beginning to the end. Because water connects us all, and when we work together, we are always stronger together. Thank you.
Elise, you heard what Sarah was talking about, the importance of enabling this change. You've been here as a member of the youth. We want to hear from you and what you've seen and what more we can do.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. This year at World Water Week, I had the chance to participate as a Young Scientific Program Committee member. Along with my 2 other SPC members, I took an active part in planning and organizing a 3-part seminar series. The YSPC program is an excellent example of meaningful youth engagement where we were involved in the decision-making processes to shape World Water Week. Over the course of this week, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people, to learn a great deal, and discover so many incredible projects that are happening around the world. One thing that stood out to me was how much young people, especially Gen Z, are showing up and how much people are keen to involve them. Young people are attending sessions, they're contributing to discussions, and they're making their voices heard. One of the sessions we organized yesterday, everyone is grouped by generation. And you can imagine, the older generations had a lot to say. The millennials were very optimistic and had a very forward-looking spirit to their discussions, and Gen Z were just happy to be included. And that says so much. They were grateful to have the chance to share their ideas and their knowledge. But we cannot be present and we cannot be active without the right support. That includes the right encouragement and the right financial support. We all know how difficult the funding landscape is right now, and it's important to realize how much harder it is for young people, especially those in the Global South, to travel to these events. During one of the sessions I attended this week, Kay Blades, an Aboriginal woman from Australia, said, "Nothing about us without us," and that applies here. If we're serious about tackling climate change and the water crises that we face today and in the future, we cannot do that without including young people, and not just symbolically, but by actively involving us in shaping solutions. Companies like Xylem and Arup, who have stepped up to support the Stockholm Junior Water Prize, are great examples of corporate support in this space. So I urge others to follow their lead so that as young people, we can continue to shape the future of climate solutions. Thank you.
Bree, Sarah, Elise, I think we can actually keep clapping just for... Thank you for being us today and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It has been my honor to be your Master of Ceremonies during this week, in a group and community of change makers and visionaries. The energy has been contagious. Last year this time, Ganga Sridhar asked us, what do we do when the energy dissipates? When we leave this week, 3 weeks ahead, 1 month ahead? And to answer that question, I want to refer to what happened here on Center Stage yesterday. In those moments, we call to the rivers within, and we remember why we are part of this conversation. Thank you for so much for letting me be part of your conversation this week. To now end and give closing remarks for the World Water Week 2025, I call on stage Tom Panella, Chair of the Board of Directors for CIVI. Tom.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm so pleased to see all of you here, still passionate, still positive, and still standing strong together. Let's give ourselves a big round of applause for this amazing week. This has been my first World Water Week as chair of the new CIVI board, and as always, what a remarkable week it's been. As we develop our new strategy, I look forward to continuing this journey with all of you, strengthening partnerships and building new ones, both within and, importantly, outside the water community. And together, we can turn our shared vision into action and lasting impact. I want to begin with a simple but heartfelt thank you to all of you who made this amazing week what it was. Whether you were speaking on stage, contributing online, absorbing new insights, or connecting in the hallways between sessions. You have brought to life the spirit of this year's theme, Water for Climate Action. We've seen the depth and diversity of the global water community on full display. Indigenous and youth leaders, policymakers and practitioners, financiers, ministers, scientists, CEOs, each bringing forward ideas, practical solutions, and calls for action. What stood out for me was the shared concern and urgency across all the sessions, and the recognized clarity that water is not just central to climate change, it's the foundation of a just, resilient, and economically sustainable future. Throughout the week, I was inspired by the momentum we witnessed from public-private partnerships, climate and water financing tools, new institutional approaches and policy breakthroughs, and local innovation. I was deeply motivated by the involvement of young people, not only with the Junior Prize, with those people we stood on stage just now, or the volunteers, but all who participated. It's clear we must do more to engage and empower young people, since they are the world's future solutions. I know everyone here will leave with something to carry forward. And CIVI is proud to help amplify that momentum between now and COP30 and beyond. Today, we've just heard the announcement of the 2026 theme, Water for People in Progress. I won't steal the thunder of what was just shared, but I will say this. The 2026 theme is both urgent and essential. It builds directly on the foundations we have laid this year by not just asking what we do for water and climate, but who is included, who decides, and who benefits. All of us recognize water justice is inseparable from social justice. As we look forward to the UN 2026 Water Conference, this theme will guide us to focus on equity, inclusion, and transformational change needed to ensure that no one is left behind. At CIVI, we see it as our responsibility and honor to help create platforms where underrepresented voices don't just participate, but influence the agenda. That includes our continued commitment to partnering with Indigenous communities, young people, women leaders, and civil society, because sustainable solutions are only possible when they're created by and inclusive of all of us. So as we close the World Water Week 2025, I invite each of you to stay connected, stay committed, and be bold. Let's carry this week's energy forward to Belém for COP30 and to the UN 2026 Water Conference co-hosted by Senegal and UAE, where participation, equity, and dignity will need to be made pillars of a water-secure world. As we wrap up, let's remember we each carry a piece of this week forward. In our countries, in our communities, in our institutions, and among our networks, our collective impacts depends on how we act together. Let's listen better, let's include more voices, and let's create solutions that reflect the reality and needs of all people. Thank you again for your commitment, your energy, and your vision. And we look forward to seeing you at World Water Week 2026 and beyond. Thank you so much.